Welcome to California UDL Leading the Way 2026. We're so excited you're here with us today. Before we get started, I just wanted you to know that we know you came from a long distance, and we appreciate so much that your interest in UDL has brought you here today. We promise today it's going to be jam-packed with great things to do, fun activities. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Dr. Troy Brown, our superintendent of San Joaquin County Office of Schools, to come up and do a quick welcome to everyone.
Thank you, Fred. I am so excited to see you all. Love the energy here. I know we had a little snafu with breakfast this morning, so we apologize. And I'm going to cut my speech really short so we don't cut the keynotes time. So I really want to thank Fred and the team. Those that have been involved in this, we're in year 3 of this journey as a county here, and we know we have folks from outside the county as well that come and participate. And so we're just really excited you're here. So please, a big hand for Fred and the whole UDL team. Wouldn't be possible without them and the California UDL Summit or the UDL team and all that they put into this. The one thing I am going to share is you think about UDL and all that's going on and the work that's going on. These were made by students in Linden in their ag department, and I happened to be on a visit over there one day, not for this, but they were making these when I was there. And then I also know the bags that were put together by our Workability One program. And so really trying to model, thank you. So with that said, we are thankful you're all here. We know we have some superintendents from districts in here as well. Thank you, welcome. We have some cabinet members from SJCUE. Thank you all for being here, supporting. And I'm going to turn it back over to Fred so we can get Emily going. Thank you, everybody.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Troy. I'm going to go through some housekeeping with you all first because we have to do housekeeping, right? So let's get started. So couple things. I'm not advancing slides, right? There we go. So you know who I am. You already know that. We don't need to go there. All right. So as we're getting those ready for you, we just wanted to, again, welcome you and thank Dr. Brown for his support. This couldn't have been done without the support from various initiatives and programs and projects that we work through, so those are listed here. I want you to know that the housekeeping slides are on the SCED, so under the welcome section of SCED, you can go in and see any of this again. So I'm going to kind of breeze through some of this for you. So, but this really important in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see this the letters or the acronym CCFAC. That's CFAC. That is the Capital Central Foothill Area Consortium, which is our GeoLead. We're one of 14 counties that participate, and they are a major part of why this is happening, as well as the California UDL Coalition. It's been a project that we've been working on for a few years. And but the other partners are just equally as important as well. So just a few housekeeping things. I just wanted to say, in the event that we had to leave the building, we would go exit out the front doors and we would gather under the solar panels so that you know what our emergency routine is here. And then you have your programs, and it has the maps in there. So hopefully they're pretty self-explanatory where everything is, but we do have water stations. Water station here in the hallway. There's bathrooms on both sides of this room here. There's a gender-neutral bathroom upstairs. We have even an area for a lactation station if that's needed. You're going to find all of the vendors. Mostly all the vendors are going to be in the UDL Cafe. And we hope that you'll stop and visit them as well. Food is going to be in Greenwood 3 and 4. This is the, and then we want to be sure that you're just kind of aware. We're trying to keep things as simple as possible here. Most of the sessions are held in the Teachers College next door. So we have sandwich boards outside to help you navigate to those. And those little dots there tell you that those are the rooms that we're using. Okay. So we try to, our transfer time between sessions is usually it's 15 minutes, but we had to make some adjustments to our schedule. So it's either 10 to 15 minutes to get in between sessions here. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. And if you see a purple shirt like this, we're here to help you. So be sure you grab us and say, I need help with something. Then, that's our job today, to be sure that you get what you need as well. I mentioned our great sponsors. We couldn't do this without them, and we hope that you will visit them. And we really we have some really great displays here for you to enlighten yourselves with. It's really going to be awesome. Then the bags, Dr. Brown mentioned that our Workability 1 students put those together. And these are just the items that you'll find in your bag. So I'm not going to go through the list here because you can go through the bag yourself. But you know that there's even some fun stuff. There's a light stick in there. So if you want to pull the little tab out on the battery, you're welcome to shine it and let us know you love something today. That would be one way you could do that. Okay, so everyone should have that. And then there's some pictures of our kids that put together the bags. So we're really thankful. These were students from Ripon High School that put the bags together for us today. And Dr. Brown mentioned those letters, and here are some pictures of the students putting those together. So we're really excited about this. Every time I go to a conference, I see big letters. I said, well, we need big letters too. And they're very expensive to buy. So, we said, well, why aren't we reaching out to our kids and see if we can have it built for us? So anyway, I hope you like those. I think they're a great visual for us and a reminder that this is California UDL here. UDL Lab, you're going to see posters all over, big poster signs about the UDL Lab. It's being held in Greenwood 4. It's open on both days, and really a great opportunity to meet others and get, re-energized or talk through a session idea that you have. But we want you to know that the lab is open, and it's really considered an unconference experience. Lots of time for storytelling, we hope. Because the theme of today is powered by stories driven by design. So we hope all of you have stories that you are going to walk away with and share as a result of attending today. So I just have two more words to say, maybe two sentences to say. I have a speech for you, but because we're kind of running short on time, I'm not going to put you through it. But I do want to say that this started 3 years ago as an idea. A good friend of mine, Jennifer Betker, and I were co-facilitating the California UDL Coalition, and we said, it would be great if we could put on a UDL event. But we didn't have any money, so we said, how are we going to do this? We want to run off the coattails of maybe one of our initiatives or projects that we work with. So our GeoLead was willing to take us up on that offer. And really, year one was really an experiment. We didn't know if it was going to take off or not. It was a one-day event. It was on February 15. And we got such great reviews that we said, let's do year two. So year two we called it an experience. We went to a 2-day event. And this was just amazing. People were coming for 2 days here, and they want to learn more about UDL. We partnered with more schools to be able to share their stories. And we said, okay, this is great. I guess we better do year 3. And year 3, we promised this to be what we call the Extravaganza Summit. And we're doing a lot of different things, new things here. And we just hope that you, as I mentioned earlier, walk away with some good ideas to share and to meet new people, make new friends, and know that we're in this together. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome our wonderful keynote today. And so I'm going to give you a little intro to my new friend. We're not new friends. We've been friends for almost a year now, I think. So my friend Emily Mostovoy-Luna is an educational consultant deeply committed to equity and inclusive practices. With close to 20 years in educational leadership, she believes every student deserves compassionate, equitable, high quality, and inclusive instructional school communities that foster the joy of learning, student voice, and agency. Emily brings a wealth of expertise in special education and general education, holding past positions as an early childhood teacher, a school counselor, a principal, district and executive director of special education, and an associate superintendent of special education local plan areas, which is SOPA in Ventura County. Wow, that's very impressive. So I love it. I learned a lot just reading your bio. So the fun facts, and these are things I didn't know. Well, I knew she was a mom, but she's a proud mom of 2 elementary-age daughters. Is it Zoe?
Zoe and Olivia.
Zoe and Olivia, one of whom has a 504 plan, and her last name, Mostovoy, is derived from the Russian word. Say the word.
Mostovoy.
Mostovoy. Oh, so it is Mostovoy. Most, which also means bridge. So Emily is an educational bridge maker, creating inclusive paths for all through compassion, curiosity, creativity, and collaboration. You're going to learn a lot about that. So please join me today in welcoming our wonderful keynote, Emily Mostovoy-Luna.
Hey. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. How we all doing? Woo, we're ready? Okay. Got to get my wiggles out, right? So I really hope that what we are able to do in the next 60 minutes or so is truly talk about belonging, okay? Because before I want to jump in and talk about universal design for learning, inclusive and equitable education, UDL, all of the frameworks that we know is what makes this work, we have to talk about something deeply human, which is belonging. Because belonging is really not just a feeling we hope for. It's something that we have to either design for and truly plan, or we unintentionally can leave it aside, okay? So as of today, I want us to talk about what it means to lead with courage and disrupt with grace, because what I think we're all experiencing is that what we have in our classrooms are systems and designs that haven't necessarily been meant to reach the students that we are teaching today, right? And so I want to welcome you to Belonging by Design, Leading with Courage, and Disrupting with Grace. Let's see if this works. Maybe I should turn it on. No. Okay, give me 1 sec. I dropped it right before we started. Maybe I broke it. Because I'm disruptive, you know? Okay, let's see. You're going to learn a little bit more about that too. Okay, let's see. We'll go the old school way. How about that? Okay, there we go. So, logistics. Here we want. I want you to know that this presentation, and it's not changing on the slide. Give you a little dance to get us going. No. We're UDL practitioners. We're flexible, right? We pivot. We connect. Ooh, this worked on mine, but it's not working up there. Oh, hello. Hi, Jacob. Okay, so while we're working on that, here's what I want to tell you. I want you to take this time to just really be present, right? Because in our day-to-day jobs, we so rarely get these types of opportunities where we actually can sit and process and reflect and talk to our colleagues. And so You have access to the slide decks in not just one, but two places, because I like plan A's and plan B's, right? As you heard, I'm a mama of two. Oh, we got Jacob again, woohoo. There we go, and we're back. So just know, we have it in a Google folder that I have for you as open access. It's also been uploaded into the Sketch app, okay? So there's our logistics. I'll give you a moment if you want to take a quick picture, but just know you have it in two different places. I always worry about a little technology, as we just saw that little glitch there. So I always want to do double times. Okay, so you heard a little bit about me, and thank you, Fred, so much for that amazing and warm welcome. I always get a little uncomfortable when you start talking about how many positions you've been in. It kind of starts to age me a little bit. But for those who we have not had a chance to meet, my name is Emily Mostovoy-Luna. I'm an education consultant with Novak Education. And what I have spent my days, particularly over the last couple of years, is just working truly alongside school communities, educators, leaders, really trying to work on something that is incredibly hard to do, which brings us here today, right? Which is to connect and create school communities and a sense of belonging for inclusive and equitable education. And what I have learned is I absolutely do not have all the answers, right? I have made some tremendous mistakes, but I also have had a chance to really kind of have opportunities to really reflect and see what is going on in our school communities to give some frameworks of this work that we're trying to really drive into, right, into our systems. And I do that because of my why, which is this beautiful family that I call just my absolute love on the screen. My husband in front, his name is Rodrigo Luna. He came to the States in 7th and 8th grade from Mexico City, speaking very little English. And so he and I are raising our children with a tremendous amount of intention, trying to understand the cultural backgrounds that we both bring to this, and trying to raise just amazing, wonderful, kind humans. And of course, I'm biased, but I think they're pretty amazing. What I also would say is we have learned to have to navigate the healthcare and the school systems, knowing that both of our children actually have some mental health needs, particularly my oldest daughter, Zoe. Zoe is 9, and my second-born, anybody have second-borns out there? Oh yeah, do you love those memes? It's like, show me a second-born without showing me a second-born. If I had other pictures, Olivia, the younger one, hands on the hips, a little bit of sass, right? I thought I would never be a cheer mom. I am a cheer mom now because of that second-born. So, but back to Zoe. Zoe, and with her permission, allows me to share this. Zoe has kind of a unique autoimmune disorder called PANDAS. Anybody heard of PANDAS before? Okay, we know we love acronyms in education. Let me break down what PANDAS stands for. Pediatric, autoimmune, neuropsychiatric disorder associated to strep. You know that like infection that so many of us have experienced? Hers goes all the way up in the inflammation of her brain, that area where we regulate our emotions, we regulate kind of those decisions, and that's what she has. So over the last 2 years, which is one of the reasons why I chose to kind of go into the education consultant role, is when she is in a flare like anybody who has an autoimmune disorder, we brace ourselves. We are there, I need to be present, I need to be regular, I need to be there. And so being able to still do this work and the focus and the love for inclusive and equitable education while also being at home has been just an absolute blessing. What I also would say is, as I've reflected and had this time, there are 3 pillars of what I hope to bring to every situation and encounter that I work with, and with that message, which is the very first one is that every student walks onto our school communities with a sense of true belonging and access to high quality education. Very first one. Second one is that our parents and families, and I say that with the greatest amount, right? I use that in a wide range, knowing that it truly does take a village, right? And we have learned that in a whole new way as parents of Zoe and Olivia, but that they feel true partners in their child's education. And then third, it's these exact moments like today, which is that because of the ever-changing world that we live in education and the needs of our students, is that we have these opportunities to learn and reflect and process, because it is busy out there, right? And in order for us to continue to grow and be reflective practitioners, we need moments like this. The other thing that I forgot to share is my husband, and if you see me in the hallways, I might have a chance to share. My husband and I have been married not once, but twice. We are true believers of that continuous improvement cycle that we know in education, right? And you're going to see that throughout today's presentation. So without further ado, let's talk about what the goals are for today. What I want us to really know and just kind of begin to understand where we're headed today is we're going to be exploring why courageous and purposeful disruption is often necessary to redesign systems that were never built for the learner variability we have in the first place, right? We're going to examine what I call my 4 C's framework, which is compassion, curiosity, creativity, and collaboration. And then we're going to connect truly to the incredibly important voice of students and how that aligns to universal design for learning, specifically so we can start to learn how we can build our design decisions directly impacting belonging and access and engagement. And so as we are just about to get started, I just want you to think about what space and place are you in right now? What role are you in? And what does belonging look like now? Okay? Because this isn't about doing more. What I hope you see is about designing better, thinking differently. So we're going to start with a little bit of a confession. And so what I need you all to do, if you can help me, because I have this, we need to be courageous, right, in this work. So if you all can give me a little drum roll, please. And when I go like this, we're going to stop. So a little drum roll. Okay, stop. I once learned that I was called a bull in a china shop. I'm going to let that sit in. Bull in a china shop. And I didn't hear it directly, right? It was repeated to me. It was quiet. I see some of your faces. Some of you are like, I get this. Some of you are like, ooh. Fred's probably like, oh my gosh, who did we invite to be our keynote? She might be reckless. Maybe she needs to slow down. She needs to stop pushing. Maybe I'm making people uncomfortable. Because that's what that metaphor means, right? That's often how it's used. Because on the surface, it does. It sounds reckless. It sounds careless. But here's the part that people don't say out loud. Those labels are rarely actually about behavior. They're about disruption. And I consider myself who is someone who really pretty much shows up pretty prepared. I mean, look at me. I got my hot pink heels. I got my matching shirt. I got my nails. I've been working on this keynote for about 5 months. Right? I lean into the work. And so when I heard this, I had an opportunity. I could shrink when I heard this, or I could really reflect and learn and embrace it and think about what got me there before, what got me there in that moment, and what can I do with it for the future. And if I'm being honest, there was probably moments where I shrank, right? I didn't really know what to make of that statement at first. And I'm wondering if I'm not the only person in this room who's maybe felt that. Not because you were careless, not because but because you were clear. And that's when I started asking myself a different question. What if being a bull was never about destruction? What if it's always about courage? Because what I've learned is an inclusive and equitable education, universal design for learning, rightful presence, true belonging, it doesn't begin with strategies. It often begins with friction. We look at our LRE data. We look at disproportionality data. We look at parent conflict, disagreements, student behavior. And many of our systems were really not designed to meet the students that we have in our classrooms today. They were designed for sameness and predictability, one size fits all, compliance. They were designed to run smoothly, but not respond necessarily flexibly. So when someone names the gap, when someone says, who does this work for? Or when someone refuses the answer, this is just how we do it, they get labeled, often as difficult, too much, direct, and yes, a bull. So here is what I want us to notice, is that those labels, they don't show up when systems are working. They show up when our systems are exposed. So before we go any further, I just want to pause and name something that's really important here. Because somebody who truly tries to embrace and connect to cultural sensitivity, right, disability justice, our words really matter. And metaphors are typically not neutral, right? Words have impact. And so I want to be really clear how I'm using this metaphor. I'm not glorifying carelessness or dismissing harm or ignoring the impact. I'm intentionally reclaiming a metaphor that has been used to silence people who challenge inequitable systems. And I'm reframing it with care, with awareness, and with purpose. Because belonging requires us to be precise, both with our designs within our classrooms and our school systems and our language. And so in preparation for this, I was always kind of reflecting on what that metaphor means. I had to do further research. I had to look at, well, the bull in the china shop means one thing for us, but what does the bull represent in other cultures, other areas of the world? And what I learned is that in many cultures, the bull represents strength, protection, and purpose. The bull is not unaware of its surroundings. Quite the contrary. In fact, bulls move very slowly, deliberately. They pay attention to space and place. And bulls don't actually destroy china shops. You ready for this? They move carefully. They respond to the cues. They adapt to the environment. The damage happens when the space was never designed for the movement in the first place. And I've got proof. Okay, I don't want to age myself, because I do often call myself a Leo the late bloomer as a mama in my late 40s, early 50s, right, raising a 9 and a 7-year-old. But does anybody remember the Mythbusters show? If you do, give me a little woohoo so I can feel comfortable in this. Okay, you ready? This is amazing. Watch this. Oh, and I love the flare. That was awesome. Okay. Okay, ready? Oh, no. No. Come on. No. Come on. How do I do it, Jacob? How do I do it? It worked. No, it's ruining. This is like a key moment. I am busting the myth. No. Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh, this is like the crux. Okay, let me tell you what it does. Okay, you're gonna wait, right? Because this is like really powerful, right? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay. You could just look YouTube. Let's all tell Jacob what to do right now. All right now.
What if you could clean your retainer at the touch of a button? No more brushing or tablets.
Oh, I need this.
Over 4 years ago, our team of engineers knew there had to be a quicker, easier, and more...
And a perfect example was a bull in a china shop.
You're gonna have to stay here.
You've heard this expression
and get me
your whole
back.
life, bull in a china shop.
Okay, listen.
It means a really clumsy person breaking things. Did it hurt the bull?
I'm okay.
You know, we set up this kind of rickety shelved china shop, complete with all these dishes, in this bull pen.
This one looks like it's ready to go without the bull.
And we let one bull in. For us, it was just a laugh.
Oh, dang! Here comes the bull! Oh, look, he's totally avoiding all the china.
It was the most graceful thing I'd ever seen. And it was running fast. It wasn't just walking. I mean, it was moving quick, just weaving in and out of these shelves, not even touching it.
Whoa, getting right through the shelves without knocking over a single piece.
That was cool. Okay, that's strange. Let's let two bulls in. So the two bulls, one follows the other one, and they just go around the china shop. Look at that.
They're very careful of the breaking china.
I was elated when I found out that the bulls weren't going to break anything because it was just so counterintuitive. I mean, they're big, giant, lumbering beasts. But no, they're ballet dancers. They're the ballet dancers of the wild. I think we're going to have to just admit it. It's a stupid saying. I'm never going to use it again. Bull in a china shop busted.
Busted.
Yeah, it's busted.
My favorite parts of that video, right? One, they bust it, right? Like, that's amazing. I love how they identified the bull as a ballerina of the wild, right? And then it was like that kick, bam, right? Because I feel like when we do this work, sometimes you feel like you just need a kick and just be like, okay, enough, right? We have to move past this. So when I found that, it was like, oh, right? It was this moment of just kind of like,
In a
wow.
perfect.
And what I really was also kind of just fascinated, because some of you, I see people are following my metaphor, right? But some of you might be like, but Emily, we're talking about schools here. We're not talking about a china shop. But what I would say here is, one, I actually thought visually, the china shop they built kind of reminded me of a classroom with rows of seats, right? The beautiful artifacts are the amazing humans we work with day in and day out. And I also would kind of just counter, our school systems are even more complex, right? What we're trying to do and build and what you all do day in and day out as teachers with the standards and preparing and if you're a TK teacher, oh my goodness, right? That is a true ballerina art right there. Thank you so much. But what I also want to what helped me kind of connect is if we're talking about learner agency and with universal design for learning, the agency is being the bull, okay? Universal design for learning, it's the china shop, okay? Because UDL, it's the environment. It's the design that anticipates movement, change, and growth for our students. And this is where I think sometimes people get a little bit nervous, because when we use that term architecture, that sounds really big. Sounds like maybe even another initiative. Sounds expensive, more resources, more people. But what I'm hoping everybody just kind of connects to with our time together is that it's a decision. It's a mindset and a decision. It's not about adding another initiative. It's about noticing what already shapes access and belonging in our systems in the first place. And if it doesn't, choose differently and proactively plan different. It's deciding whether your schedule is protecting co-planning time or whether it's supporting kind of that traditional model. It's about whether access to tier 1 instruction is assumed or is it earned. UDL is the architect that allows creativity to scale without burning people out and without leaving students behind. Because when the design is intentional, nothing essential gets broken. And that's what allows us to disrupt outdated practices with courage and redesign them with grace. So up until now, you've heard a little bit about my story. You heard about my family, my kids, how I was once called a bull in a china shop. We busted that myth. But in order for us to truly be intentional about the design for true belonging and for connecting and rethinking how we can redesign our classroom environments and school communities, we cannot do this without listening to our students. Not listening to confirm what we already believe, not listening to kind of collect those quotes, but to truly listen and connect and hear what our students are saying about their experiences in our schools. And so what we're going to do is we're going to transition, and it's going to be throughout the rest of our presentation, hearing directly from our students. Because I had this amazing opportunity to talk with students with IEPs, individuals education plans, students without, and ask them just some amazing questions that you're going to hear from them today. And I want you to listen with that courage, with that grace, with that connection and compassion. Because what we're going to hear is our students, they feel the barriers before we can even identify them. And our student voice doesn't just tell us what's broken, they tell us what's possible. So let's listen to our very first student. Okay? This was an 11th grade student. She had an IEP. And when I was meeting with them, I asked the question, what does inclusion look like to you? How does it feel? How do you define it? And let's hear what the student said.
It means like everybody like has the same opportunity to like succeed in the environment and like the same ability to succeed. Like it shouldn't be harder for one person to succeed and like easier for another.
Pretty powerful, yeah? Now I did change the voice through AI, okay? Here's my little AI click. And as you can imagine, I tried to do younger ages, but they don't have that out there, and I think for good reasons, right? But what I really appreciated about what that student said is they weren't asking for kind of smaller amounts of work, right, for inclusion. They didn't ask for different accommodations. They didn't ask for, we need separate settings sometimes for our students. What they asked for was access, right? That's what they shared what inclusion really meant for them. And they really demonstrated, I thought, a beautiful way of how you define moving from equality to equity. Right? Everyone, they get what they need to be successful together. And when students are this clear, they're telling us something incredibly important. The barrier isn't the motivation, it's not effort or ability, it's the design. It's how we're connecting and creating our lessons in our school communities and environments that are creating and leaving some students out. And this is where my very first C comes in, which is compassion. Because compassion is what makes us feel responsible to design, not out of pity, not out of guilt, but because of a deep understanding that the environment is creating the barrier in the first place. And that is where we help to make the change for true belonging. And so what I want us to think about compassion, because as educators, I think we are probably some of the most empathetic beings in the planet. Okay, we connect with our students, we identify, we get to know them. But compassion is not a personality trait, okay? It's a systemic stance. And it shows up on not how kind we are, but how willing we are to show up in our systems and connect and think about what our learners are needing and experiencing. Peter Senge describes compassionate systems as systems that increase awareness, not blame, right? Systems that don't ask what's wrong with the student or the learner, but instead, what is the learner experiencing? And what is the environment communicating? And that shift directly aligns to universal design for learning, because UDL does not begin with fixing the students, right? We begin with different questions. What is our firm goal? What are the barriers? And how proactively can we remove them to reach and create access for all learners? And through those different multiple pathways. And compassion shifts the responsibility, not onto the learner, but onto our systems. And here's where this can sometimes get a little bit uncomfortable. Compassion means we have to stop asking our students to be more resilient in systems that were never designed for them. I want to say that again. Compassion means we stop asking our students to be more resilient in systems that were not built for them. And I can think to my principal days. I remember, 8th grade algebra, that was a hard class. And I don't think I had leaned into my compassionate lens yet. It's like, you can do it, just keep pushing, you can do it, you can get through it. without really asking the questions, what was getting in the way and how can we change differently, right? It was on the learner, not on us as educators. Because we need to redesign, and compassion is what grounds our purpose. So that's our first C. Our second C is curiosity. Because compassion alone can't change the system. For that, we need to be curious. Okay? We need curiosity, and not curiosity as compliance, right? Where we're checking in with the student of what's the problem, how can I create that solution? Because that still kind of places the burden on the learner, right? We need to move away from that. We need to go and move into curiosity as an invitation. Because our questions need to be more about, tell me what you've experienced and how can we redesign this together? What's not working and how can we work together to make a difference? Because that moves from teaching to students with teaching and learning with our students. And curiosity doesn't mean we're giving up structure. If you come to my executive functioning, you're going to hear about the importance of structure and routine, right? But what it does mean is that we're designing differently that can respond to our real learners. And this is where many systems often stall, because it's learning students required to hear things a bit differently and not to defend what was already existing. So for us, we want to be really purposeful in our curiosity, because what we have learned by neuroscience is that curiosity actually changes the brain. It primes the brain for learning. And students and children, especially in the early grades, they are naturally curious, so we have to create those opportunities. The science says when we start to become curious, the brain actually starts to fire. Okay? Dopamine is released. Attention increases. Memory improves. Sounds a little bit like executive functioning skills, no? Just by the act of curiosity. And that's why curiosity, I'm here to say, it's not a nice to have, it's a must do. It's not a may do, it's a must do, right? And also what we know is through motivation research, particularly self-determination theory, what that talks about is that learners are and curiosity grows when they have autonomy, they have confidence, and they have connection. That's UDL, right? Students are learning to make choices, autonomy. We're providing access to strong Tier 1 instruction with giving them opportunities and supports in different ways for them to demonstrate their learning, presuming competence, creating a sense of connection, safety, belonging, connection, all by being curious. Also, what I would say is this is learner agency as well. So when we ask curiosity in this work, we're not really talking about asking more questions, right? We're talking about designing environments where learners start to feel safe enough to share what they're needing, right? What works for them, what doesn't. Because students know immediately when curiosity is real. They truly do. And that's the difference between engagement and compliance. And belonging lives in that difference. So we're going to hear from our next student. And I asked them, and this student, she was so amazing. She had so much to say. And I asked her, again, with kind of that inclusive and equitable mindset, how can we be more curious? What would you want us to know about? How can we think about this? And this is what she said.
Taking the time to maybe ask students, are there topics you don't want to hear about in class or that are triggering? Are there things that I can do to make learning easier for you? Do you prefer a digital platform or a physical platform? I think that that's what inclusion looks like in classrooms, but it's not all on the teacher's back. It's also having students that are tolerant enough to collaborate with other classmates. Maybe if they're at a different level than they are, if they have different learning needs than others. Still, being able to take what you know and pass it around looks like inclusive education. So it doesn't only fall on teachers, but it also falls on students.
Pretty amazing, right? Our students know when curiosity is real. They know when we're asking a question and we give them the answer, and they can feel if it's not really going to change the design. But what I loved about this is she's inviting for that collaboration, that connection, that creativity, for that to happen. She also just completely named multiple means of engagement and representation without even knowing it, without even using the acronym of Universal Design for Learning. She named choice. She talked about trust, safety, right? To be able to share and ask to, what might be triggering. And here is what matters most. They assumed they belonged in the conversation. They felt safe enough to really share and talk about this. And they assumed that their voice matters. And that's what tells us something about when we're creating those environments or their school systems where they're looking for that connection and change and true belonging. Because when students are asked what they need, and then it's seen and reflected in the design, they stop bracing. They relax. And they stop performing, not just to get through the assignment, through true engagement and participation. And that is what purposeful disruption looks like. Connecting with our students, thinking through and redesigning. Not tearing things down, but questioning what was never designed for the students in the first place. Curiosity doesn't mean you give up structure. It means you design the structure that responds to the variability. So I want to give you the first kind of moment to just take to each other, reflect, think through. Because as adult learners, right, we can listen, but we need to connect. We need time to process. And so I'm going to give you 3 minutes, and I'm not going to try and start that timer because I'm afraid I might mess it up. But I will keep a timer on mine. But what I want you to know is just think about, again, starting to where you were in the beginning of this. What role and space and place are you? Think of your school classroom, your community. Where could curiosity begin to start to change the design? You have choices because we are UDL practitioners. You do not need to stay in your seats. If you need to stand up, you need to get your wiggles out, you need to move around, go right ahead. But talk to an elbow partner. Jot down some notes. Just think. But here is 3 minutes. We're coming back around 9:10. Go. Sure. Wait. Oh, you want a shirt? Yeah. 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 Absolutely, thank you. Okay, I'm bringing us back. I'm going to give you a quick example of what agency is in schools. Are you ready for this? My sister is a principal. Bringing it back, everyone. And she had one of her students come up to her and say, Miss Sotka, I have a petition with 100 signatures on this. Third grader, 100 signatures. She's like, we all want to see a real mascot. We are the Eagles. We want to see a real mascot. And Miss Sotka was like, oh man, I got to figure out how to make this happen. I got teacher signatures here. I got student signatures here. So she goes and she does research. You can imagine it was kind of hard to find an eagle. But she finds a hawk. And they all get in a big room like this, a big multi-purpose room. This is a real story. And the students are so excited because this was their vision, right? This is agency. This is an example of an agency. And the trainer is there with the hawk, right? Students are all excited. And my sister does her little PBIS moment to connect to the students, right? Which is she puts her hands up to signal it's time to get quiet. And all, like very good students who are good with routines and connection, the students put their hand up, just like the principal. Guess what that symbol was to the hawk? That was a symbol to fly. In that moment, that hawk just starts going all around the room like wild. Chaos erupts, laughter, hilarious moments. The trainer's able to get that hawk back, and they move back on. So what I love to do is as we come back together, you're going to see my hand move up. You're going to see that as that motion to quiet down. And if anybody out there wants to do a little caw to get us going, because you're all going to be visualizing, right, this hawk flying around in a big room. And I share that for a couple reasons. One, because when we have this number of people, we need to get everybody back together quickly, right? We got time to do. Second, it gives a great demonstration of what learner agency really can be. Third, it talks about how this work is incredibly messy. We're going to try things, right? I have practiced this keynote how many times with different technology, and look at all the things that have happened, right? It just happens. It's just what we do. And we adapt, and we're flexible, and we connect, and we move on, right? So let's move on to the third C, which is creativity, right? We've done compassion. We've done curiosity. Now let's break down what creativity is in terms of this framework and this work related to universal design for learning. Because curiosity helps us see what needs to change. Creativity is how we decide what to do about it, okay? So once we start asking better questions, we start being brave enough to design differently, maybe thinking about that metaphor in a different way, that's when creativity really kind of comes to life. And the amazing Sir Ken Robinson, okay, talks about creativity. And what he talks about is that creativity has not disappeared within our school systems. It just has become constrained, right? Because we have all the standards that we need to reach. We have all the different goals that we have to set, right? There is so much being asked at the scope and the sequences that we need and we ask our teachers to connect with. But our children are also naturally curious. And when curiosity is nurtured, right, especially through a creative lens, right, we get that firing that's happening and they're ready to learn. But when our systems are prioritizing kind of that compliance, predictability, that sameness that we talked about, our curiosity often gets silenced. And creativity then gets labeled as like a distraction or something if you have a little time to do. And so when we can begin to think about what Robinson talks about creativity, is that we don't lack creative people. Y'all are probably some of the most creative people I've ever met as educators. But it doesn't need to be like really flashy, right? he argues that our systems often lack the conditions that allow for the creativity to flourish. Because what I want to be clear is that creativity is not about that Pinterest lesson, right? It's not that flashy bulletin board, even though I love a good bulletin board, and I often call myself a Pinterest by purchase kind of mama. Hear that differently. I am not a Pinterest person. I am a Pinterest purchase. I need the pre-cutouts, right, to make it look beautiful. But creativity is what making things are flexible, right? It's the willingness to honor the variability we have in our classrooms, not as an exception, but as that starting point, right? And so our students, while they do have learner variability, and we embrace that, what I'm here to say is that variability is really about the design. How do we create in the classrooms ways to reach all of our learners? And through that, that's really that creative lens and universal design for learning. And it's not about asking you all to do more. It's about thinking differently, okay? And it's about asking our systems to do better as well. And what I've learned is that creativity doesn't just show up in one way. There's actually quite a bit of research on creativity. And there's something that's called big C creativity and little c creativity. I know, right? I saw your face. I was like, yeah, me too. I was thinking that. So here, let me explain kind of the two differences. Big C creativity, kind of in original states of the research, was like the Picasso moments. It was seen as something really rare, something that didn't really happen often. It was like these life-changing moments. And little c are kind of more the regular day-to-day, okay? But what I want kind of to think about when we're thinking about our school systems is that I see our big C creativity at the system level of our schools. That's where I see the big creativity can happen. It lives in decisions like how our schedules are built, right? How are we honoring PLC time with all of our staff together? Protecting that time. So for instance, our teachers who are special education teachers are not in IEP meetings during the PLC times. They're there at the table. It's whether access to Tier 1 is open for all, or is it still seen as earned? Those are the big C decisions. And big C creativity answers the question, does the system allow flexibility, or does it enforce the sameness? And then there's the little c creativity, and that is like those aha moments that you all do as teachers in your classrooms. It's how teachers design the learning experiences. It's how choices are offered to our students, the flexibility, the pacing, the materials, the access. And little c creativity depends on big C creativity. They have to go hand in hand, and they have to work together. Because often we think about, like, when our systems don't flex, we often say, it's a classroom problem, right? But when our systems do, when we really connect to those big C decisions, those creative decisions, it really becomes something pretty tremendous. And it's often innovative. Because y'all, as teachers, you don't lack the ideas. You got plenty of them, right? It's about the time. It's about the mindset. It's about that time to connect and collaborate. And this is where universal design for learning really comes into, right? We engage, we represent, we express. UDL gives us the framework for big C decisions to support the little c needs, okay? We start thinking and hearing when our students are telling us there's too many words on the page, or I listen better and learn better when I see something and then also hear it. That's giving us opportunities to create that engagement, to give different modes of representation and ways for our students to demonstrate their learning. That's universal design for learning in itself. So UDL helps us stop reacting to the barriers, one student at a time, but allows us to really proactively think beyond and for all. Because as we often say, what's good for one is good for all. So let's hear what this student said. She had a twin in the room, and they kind of like kept playing off each other. But this is a 7th grade student with an IEP, and I asked, like, what if you had your teachers, they are here, what would you want them to hear, right? What would it be? This is what she said. How can they help us?
Like for me, the best example, or like what helps me the most in class is having a verbal and visual example. So the teacher's explaining it with like their words and also writing it down on the board or a piece of paper so you can follow with them. So if you have trouble seeing, because I have glasses, so if you have trouble seeing, you can hear them, but if you have trouble listening, you can watch them. So it's helpful, like when it's verbal, and yeah.
I don't know if I told you, I was a middle school principal, so like 7th and 8th grade is my vibe. Like I was just digging that time with them. So yeah, right. But I mean, listen to what she said. Right? She knows what she needs. You just need to ask. That's simple. My favorite trick about universal design for learning, because I know often when I do introduction to universal design for learning, particularly about lesson design, right? It's like there's so many things, or they're having to create so many options and choices. Here's my favorite tip. Just ask the students, how would you like to demonstrate your learning? Simple. Just make sure it's aligned to that firm goal. That's it. They have the answers. They know when curiosity and compassion is real. They're asking for just humanity and connection and authentic relationships, right? And joyful learning. All happen to be universal design for learning considerations, right? So because we're lack on time, I'm only going to give you 1 minute, so I'm not going to ask you to get up, okay? But just take a moment. What design assumptions could be disrupted with more compassion, more curiosity, or creativity? Okay, because we got one more C coming, and we're wrapping it up. Okay, I'm going to give you 1 minute. Just think about it or talk to a partner. But what design assumptions, and I'm talking about assumptions, could be disrupted with grace, with courage? Give you a couple minutes. Anybody seeing that hawk fly? Okay, I'm bringing us back because we only got a couple more minutes left to each other. We're on our final C, and they're all kind of my favorite, but I feel like for us to truly do this work, I feel like this is probably like the foundation to do universal design for learning, to reach true belonging by design with grace, with courage, disrupting it just a tad bit, right? Because collaboration isn't what, collaboration is what sustains this work, right? It can't just be universal design for learning. It can't just be inclusion. It can't just be true belonging, because none of those can work in silos, right? Or solo acts. They need to be all together. And it's not just a belief. This is also research-based, okay? We all have heard of the amazing John Hattie and his meta-analysis research. The number one, right? Do we know what it is? Collective teacher efficacy, yes? Right? Collective teacher efficacy is the shared belief that every educator, and I mean every, comes together, believe they can positively impact the students regardless of background, race, or label, right? It's not one great teacher. It's not a set of instructional strategies. It's the collective power of all of the teachers together. And it's what happens when the system truly says, these are all of our students. It is our shared responsibility. And we're here to design differently. And what they found, right, for those who are still maybe a little bit new to Hattie's work, right, he did thousands and thousands and thousands of looking at different experiences and different instructional practices and ways that we work in schools. And what he's found was his number one, right, was collective teacher efficacy with an effect size of 1.57. Now, what he found was anything over 0.40 was equivalent to a 1-year academic growth. So 1.57, like that's transformational, right? Then you add in a little bit of compassion, curiosity, creativity, a little bit of UDL. I mean, imagine what we could be doing and the outcomes for our students. And I'll argue for our future, right? Because it's not about just that one extra initiative or that one program, because that effect size, and I know this one, because you remember, I disrupt with a little bit of grace, but I'm gonna disrupt. This is larger than class size reduction, like doubled, maybe even tripled. Even though that's a powerful one, we know, right? We understand the needs of our classrooms. But 1.57 is pretty powerful. And that's why collaboration can't be optional. It's the condition that allows UDL, inclusion, true belonging, to move from belief to impact. So I ended my time with all of our students by just asking, right? We've been talking about inclusion, you've been sharing what your teachers, how it can help them, what they need. They did these beautiful jobs of talking about trust and safety, right, and connection. And then I said, well, how do we build community and a true sense of belonging? And we just kind of went around the table, and of course, students had choice. They could choose to engage or not. But here's what they said.
Kindness.
Communication.
Respect.
Acceptance.
Love.
Compassion.
Pride. Motivation.
Pure, authentic, real relationships built on compassion, curiosity, creativity, and collaboration. So let's start where we began, right? Let's erase kind of some of the technical stuff, but think about that video that we busted. Think about how I started by saying I was once called a bull in a china shop, and I'm reclaiming that metaphor for us to think differently. Because being bull is not about being loud. It's about being unwavering. It's about knowing when to push and when to pause. It's about having the courage to name the systems that no longer serve our learners and the willingness to redesign them with care. Because this work isn't clean, it is messy, it's not linear, and it's not finished. Because when you really think about it, this is what we heard from our students today. We heard the kind of bulls we need. Each of those students were bulls. They showed us compassion by naming what helps them feel safe, seen, and valued. They showed us curiosity by asking how learning could work differently. They showed us creativity by imagining new ways for access for them, engagement, and how they can express their learning. And they showed us collaboration by trusting us enough to share their experiences and invite them into the redesign process. They moved through our systems with strength and awareness and intention, even when those systems weren't necessarily designed for them in the first place. That is learner agency. That is belonging by design. And that's our invitation. So I hope that we can be the adults who match their courage to design systems that honor their humanity and to build environments where no one has to brace just to belong. So I'm here to say, be the bull. Let's reclaim the metaphor. And ask the hard questions. Name the design flaws, protect what matters, and move through this work with courage and always with grace. Here's your little bit of intentional close, but thank you. "9:30 on the dot." Look at that.
It's like clockwork.
Exit ticket for those, because I am somebody who is, right? Remember you heard about my husband and I, continuous improvement cycle. I love feedback. It helps me redesign what I need to do, okay, to help reach you all in better ways, in authentic, real ways. So if you don't have time to do this, just know it's uploaded in the Sketch app. You can always fill it out later. But just know, thank you all. Thank you for being so gracious during our little technology gaps.
Awesome.
I hope to see you all soon in different sessions, and have a beautiful 2 days.
Thank you, Emily. Let's give her another round of applause. I need 2 minutes of your time, if I can, before I send you off to your sessions. Jacob's going to pull up a couple of slides, things that I want to be sure that I mention to you. One is that inside your swag bags is information about claiming or applying for a 1-unit credit at our Teachers College by attending both days of the summit and writing a 2 to 3 page reflection. I'm the instructor for the course, and send to me, then you can apply for a unit through Teachers College. So that's important that you know about that, and their table is in the lobby, so we want to be sure that you share that opportunity or take advantage of that opportunity if you need a unit for your professional learning. And then the next thing is, you don't know about this, but we're doing something a little different with raffles this year. We're going to call it the Unraffle. And what that means is that right after lunchtime, after our presentation with Dr. Shelley Moore today, which you know we're all so excited that she's here, on our leaderboard in the lobby, you will see names of people that have been chosen randomly that are going to be winners for today, and the same thing will happen tomorrow. You get to pick the prize you want. So this is very UDL. It isn't you're going to get this and your name was called. It's going to be more of a choice, and we hope you enjoy that experience, but you got to keep an eye on the leaderboard so that you know if you're a winner or not, but not until right after Dr. Shelley Moore presents. And the last thing is, on your tables are the lyrics for the UDL anthem, and if you want to stay and sing with us, you want to bring up your light stick and flash it around, or I know the words. We'd love for you to do that, or if you have to exit, we understand, but Jacob's going to get that started right now.
Year 2